It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Ana Laura Biancolli.
Hello.
So, Ana Laura talk today will be on the influence of radiation-induced grafting methods on the properties of LDPE-based anion-exchange membranes. Ana Laura, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. Well, my name is Ana Laura. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at CINE, and I'm a part of Division 3, Project 14. Today, I'm going to present a little part of a recently published work. We published this work in Journal of Power Sources, and I'm going to start by briefly explaining the differences between anion exchange membrane fuel cells and proton exchange membrane fuel cells, the famous PEN fuel cells. Let me just take the here. So PEN fuel cells, they conduct protons from the anode to the cathode, and the reactions that involve energy production are shown here. You can see here. So this type of fuel cell has been well developed and studied. However, they are still an expensive energy source, mainly due to the cost of the components such as electrodes and electrolyte. So one alternative for that is the anion exchange membranes. They started gaining attention recently. So in this type of fuel cell using anion exchange membrane, the anions are conducted from the cathode to the anode. And the solid electrolyte for this type of fuel cell started being studied around the 2000s. So this technology is under development. Sorry, these materials are very recent, and so it's not so easy to find good ones commercially available. So basically, we have to synthesize them in the lab. One way to synthesize these anion exchange membranes is through radiation-induced grafting. So there are two main methods where we can do it, and one is the simultaneous, which we can see here down here, and the pre-irradiation is on top here. So basically, we use a commercially available film as a polymeric matrix. In this case, we use low-density polyethylene, the LDPE, and we irradiate this film. So we have radicals formed on it, and then we are able to functionalize this film. So in the simultaneous method, the polymeric matrix and the monomer, which is this molecule here, is we call it VBC. They're both exposed to high energy radiation. So we have radicals formed in both. You have radicals formed in the polymeric matrix and in the VBC. And then this will initiate the monomer copolymerization on the polymeric matrix. So the irradiation and the grafting, they occur in one step. On the other hand, the pre-radiation method, which is on top here, only the polymeric matrix is exposed to ionizing radiation. And in this case, the grafting step, this step here, occurs when the pre-irradiated polymer is placed in contact with the non-irradiated monomer, the VBC. After the grafting reaction, we functionalize our film with a quaternary amine, which is the molecule that will carry the anions across the membrane. There are several amines that we can use, but in this case, we use the trimethylamine, TMA. So in the end, we have the same molecular structure, but using two different methods. As the high energy radiation from the E-beam accelerator, which we use for the pre-radiation method, and the gamma rays, which we use for the simultaneous method, are much higher than the atomic binding energies, we observe some modifications in the chemical and mechanical properties of the copolymers. During the irradiation, Many reactions can occur from the combination of the radicals in the polymeric backbone, such as crosslinks, end links, and even degradation. So here I show some of these reactions occurring during irradiation. And one important thing is that the ion conduction properties of this anion exchange membrane, as well as a degradation mechanism, they are directly dependent on the modifications resulting from the polymer backbone processing, and therefore on the grafting methodology. Despite several reports on these methods in the literature, there was no systematic analysis leading to a clear understanding of the effects of the radiation method on the final properties of the anion exchange membranes. So we did a systematic analysis of the radiation grafted LDPE membranes produced by the simultaneous method and the pre-radiation method. And we provided a detailed correlation between physicochemical properties and electrochemical performance. So in this work, we synthesized 6 LDPE-based membranes, 3 using simultaneous method and 3 using the pre-radiation method. So here you can see SM is simultaneous method, which we use the gamma rays. And PIM is pre-radiation method, which we use the electron beam. We chose specific absorbed doses, which are these numbers here, so 20 kilogauss, 30 kilogauss, and to obtain membranes with comparable degree of grafting, the DOG here, and ion exchange capacity here. So then we could do a systematic analysis of the chemical and structural effects introduced by the grafting method. This figure here, we see very well that the same degree of grafting produces same ion exchange capacity. So we have pairs of membranes synthesized by the different methods. So we analyze all these membranes in pairs. When we analyze other properties, such as the water uptake, which is the water absorption capacity of these membranes, we can see that membranes with similar ion exchange capacity resulted in different water uptake. So we see here that the simultaneous method provides membranes with a higher water uptake, even if you have the same ion exchange capacity. You can see here in the pairs. This is related to the microstructural properties due to different competitive cross-linking and scission reactions happening during the irradiation. Polymers with high cross-link density usually retain less water because of the low free volume between the polymer chains, which is the case of the membranes pre-irradiated. To confirm this, we determined the gel content presenting the irradiated films, which is directly related to the cross-link. It's these gray bars here. So the results evidence that the number of cross-link in irradiated samples, pre-irradiated samples, they are considerably higher than the ones synthesized by the simultaneous method. So we have higher degree of cross-linking in these membranes. The differences in degree of cross-link provided by the two different techniques, they can affect many parameters in the membranes. For example, a high degree of cross-link can hinder the monomer diffusion, resulting in heterogeneous grafting through the thickness of the membrane. So we did the Raman mappings of these membranes, and we can see here in this figure that the membrane synthesized by the simultaneous method is more homogeneous than the one synthesized by the pre-radiation method, which shows more grafting in the edge, at the edge. We also performed a tense field stress test to evaluate the mechanical properties of the membranes. And when we compare the AEMs, anion-exchange membranes, synthesized by the two different methods, it's possible to observe that the PIM ones, the pre-irradiated ones, they have significantly higher elastic modulus than the ones synthesized by the simultaneous method. Such a higher elastic modulus is consistent with the preferential crosslink reaction in the LDPE backbone in these samples, which reinforces the structure of the polymer. The elongation at break shows a less pronounced dependence on the grafting method. This indicates that the reinforcement provided by the crosslink in the pre-radiated membranes did not make the samples fragile, preserving their elongation capacity. So we have enhanced mechanical properties in this case. The anion-exchange membrane microstructure determines the water distribution, the size of ionic clusters, the interface between hydrophilic and hydrophobic domains, and this will influence the water and ion transportation process in the membrane. So we try to understand the difference in the microstructure between these two types of membranes, and we use the technique SACS. And here I show a simplified morphology representation of them. So we found out that possibly the ionic domains, they are a little bit more organized in the pre-radiated membranes. And this will have influence in the electrochemical measurements later. So we measure the electrochemical properties of this membrane, starting with anion-conductivity. And here I'm presenting the CL conductivity first of all the membranes. And we can see that similar membranes with similar ion exchange capacity, they display comparable chlorine conductivity. And when increasing the IC increases the conductivity too. We also measured here the hydroxide conductivity of two samples. This is a very time-consuming measurement, so we did just in two samples because we cannot have carbonate forming in the membrane. And
1 minute.
Okay. I'm gonna try to be fast. And we obtained one of the highest hydroxide conductivity in the literature. We also tested these membranes in fuel cells, and we observed that the performance in the fuel cells for the membranes irradiated by the synthesized by the pre-radiated method, they are better than in the other case. Here we can see better that. So the pre-irradiation method, it's better than the simultaneous method in terms of performance of the membranes. We also did a short-term stability test of 100 hours, and basically the results show the same conductivity decay for both of them. And so it seems like in short term, the stability is not affected by the method, but we have to do long-term tests to check it. So methane products. So the development of the solid electrolytes provide an expansion of the application of this material to other electrochemical devices. So I presented an application in fuel cell. And now that we know very well our materials, we synthesize the membranes with high performance and mechanically stable ones. We're going to test them in the methane conversion reactor. As you know, now you can see here that there are many products that can be generated from the reaction. So we're not going to have only methanol, and this is going to depend mostly on the catalyst and the selectivity of the reaction. So here is a very preliminary result that we obtained. We used palladium as a catalyst, and so far we obtained just CO and CO2. So we're still working on it, and with a better catalyst, I'm sure we're going to succeed because we already have very good membranes with very high conductivity. So I hope in the next presentation, I'm going to show you some methane being formed, generating methanol in this case. Okay, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ana Laura, for your presentation. If we have questions from the audience, please, you can make them using the Q&A button here. You also can use the chat panel. Don't be shy. Oh, there's one question coming up. This is from Vanessa Vellela. Hey, Ana Laura, Vanessa is asking you, how did you measure the hydroxide conductivity without any interference of CO2 from air?
Okay, yeah, so we have this problem because the hydroxide reacts with CO2 and forms carbonate, so we lose the conductivity. And to avoid any carbonation, we applied a constant current during all the experiment. And in this condition, the hydroxide ions, they are produced at the cathode by water splitting. And the generated ions, they purge out the bicarbonate species in CO2. And then we don't have any carbonate in our membranes. So we have to apply a constant current all the time to do this test. It's very time consuming.
Okay, thank you, Ana Laura. There's another one coming from Robson Silva. Nice talk, Anna. In the last part of your talk, you mentioned the use of palladium catalyst. Can you inform what kind of palladium catalyst are you using? Do you think that the shape-controlled palladium nanoparticles could be a plus?
Well, to be honest, we did this palladium by the acid formic reduction in the lab without control, very good control, just to do a test. So yes, probably if we have enhanced palladium, enhanced catalyst, it might help. In our case, it was like a preliminary test. We still have to work on it, absolutely.
Thank you, Ana Laura. I see that Professor Pablo Fernandes. How are you doing, Pablo? Good to see you. You have a question as well.
Nice to see you too. Yes. Ana Laura, how did you choose to prepare exactly those membranes? I mean, how you thought, for example, about the availability of the reactants?
Of the what?
Can you comment about that? The availability of the reactants that you use to produce your membranes?
The availability of like the VBC, the monomer, that's what I mean?
Yes, yes. Well, I am asking in general, why exactly these membranes with this structure? I don't know. Why did you choose them?
Yeah, so these membranes, they've been studied in the with lots of groups, and I spent a part of my PhD in England with a professor that makes this type of membranes. And basically the idea is to use commercially available films that you can buy, cheap ones. For example, LDPE is plastic basically, or ETFE or other types. And then the problem is you need a radiator. So here in IPEN, we have gamma rays, we have E-beam. So for us, it's very easy to make it. And then we need a monomer to functionalize these films. In our case, we use VBC because there is a Cl in the end where we can replace with our amine. So it's a very simple synthesis and not so expensive. But the problem is that you need a radiator, basically. But the choice of this, sorry.
So you think that we could have problems if we want to scale up it, for example?
Actually, it's very easy to scale up if you have an E-beam irradiator. For example, in England, they didn't have an E-beam irradiator in the accelerator, sorry, in the university. So we used it to go to was a factory of, how do I say, mamadeira? I don't know in English, mamadeira, bottle for baby. So
baby bottle.
Yeah, baby bottle, yeah. In this factory, they use it to irradiate this baby bottle for, how can I say that, to avoid any bacteria, these things. So we use it like a simple factory that was used for that, you know, so it's not that complicated. You can scale up, it's not that hard.
Great, thank you, Ana Laura, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Pablo, just to complement Ana Laura's answer, those radiation processes are industrial. They have industrial scale, no problem at all. Easier to build up than the new synchrotrons such as Sirius, believe me, but it's possible. Very, very easy. So thank you very much, Ana Laura. Thank you for the questions.